You talked about like that I should have methods to refuse or to confirm this claim. Which method should I use? Is it just like how should I go on there?
Yeah, the first point is what kind of sources do you have?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the first question would be, you have a question and you have a preliminary answer to the question out of the literature. What kind of sources, what kind of empirical evidence can you find for this and this? And let's say the European Council is in this sense not a good example because you have very few quantifiable data. Whereas, for example, elections to the European Parliament, voting in the European Parliament, voting in the Council, you have a lot of data which you can use and use statistical methods to look at it.
Yeah.
European Council, you need more or less to rely on qualitative methods, on oral evidence, if you might call that oral interviews evidence, but you have to look what is the subject and what are methods which you can deal with. Especially if you write a master's thesis, you are not writing a PhD thesis. A PhD thesis, you would expect that the researcher will really deeply get into it. A master's thesis, you shouldn't spend more than a couple of months on that. So you need to be aware that there are limits to what you can find. But quite often you see in most EU issues, there's a lot of literature which you can draw from. In the case of European Council, look at the texts of the conclusions, or if you look at the European Parliament, or if you look at our subject, EU-Turkey, what are the formal agreements between Turkey and the EU? What are the legal basis for writing this? So there's a lot of things around, and you need to reflect very carefully about the methods you can use, both in terms of what is available, but also in terms of your timing. That you cannot make, for example, in the master's thesis, interviews in all 28 capitals. That's not possible. So you need to be careful about what you can do. And in your method part, you should then tell the reader that you base your own findings on a limited set of sources. And the reader will directly recognize, yes, that's useful. It's limited, but it's useful.